I want to bring on to the webinar Mr. Mike Saunders. So he is an authority on authority marketing. So you're going to learn all about that today and what that means. But Mike is a speaker. He's a best-selling author of 4 books. He's a successful business coach who holds an MBA in marketing. Mike is also an adjunct marketing professor at several universities and a member of the Forbes Coaches Council. He has interviewed hundreds of industry experts on his podcast and is also striving to learn from other thought leaders. Mike is most passionate about seeing his family grow up with high spiritual values and providing them opportunities to succeed in life. He's heavily involved in his local church and is focused on teaching others the benefits of giving and serving. Mike, appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you coming on. I know this is going to be super valuable. Guys, type in your questions as we go. I'll try to, chime in if you guys have questions on what Mike is talking about. We're going to have some Q&A at the end. And I've actually done, just disclaimer, I've done what Mike's going to present to you today. So he came to me with this concept in doing a podcast using PR, and it's been awesome for me. And that's why I wanted to share it with my clients. So he's going to walk you through that. So Mike, I'm going to let you take it away. And you're muted.
Hey, Luke, thanks so much for having me on. And
no problem.
Technical difficulties. Okay. Hey, so as an added point to what Luke just said, yes, I did this for him, but also we're going to show you a really cool and unique way to integrate some of these authority positioning assets into your magazine program that you already do. In fact, check this out. Here's mine. I do the business in action. And so I've got some of these exact ways that I'm going to be showing you to integrate into the magazine, and we'll show you some of those ideas as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get my screen share started here. And I want you to realize too, also that it's really, just go start here. Okay. So don't try to think, oh, well, I've tried that before, or I've done that before. And I want you to have an open mind. Like Luke mentioned, I've taught for 12 years marketing at 4 different universities online, and a couple of semesters here locally at Colorado Christian University. So I'm a teacher and an educator, and I want to make sure things are super clear. So I want you to realize that this presentation is not some 90-minute pitch and takeaway and a scarcity. This is going to be some teaching and education. You're going to really, really enjoy this presentation. So I'm guessing for a lot of you, most of you, this is not your only and first webinar you've ever been on. And I want to mention that if you have tried marketing and you think about this tactic or this campaign you've done and it really failed or didn't produce the results you wanted, it's no problem. It's not your fault, because literally sometimes the marketing will fall on deaf ears when they don't perceive someone, yourself, as a trusted advisor, credible authority expert. Not that you're credible, not that there's a problem, but they don't see you stand out from the crowd. And so what I want you to also realize is there's not one magic bullet or solution out there that if you hear a guru go, oh, well, this is the magic bullet, this increases AUM by, or this will close this many annuity contracts and we guarantee it. There's not one simple solution out there. And if they tell you that, they are wrong. And so what we're going to do today is talk about how to use authority positioning and authority assets to grow your agency, to get more referrals, to become more referable. And I want to show you how to do it really quickly and easily. So some of the topics we're going to touch on is how to build an authority positioning on Google, because I will tell you this, SEO, search engine optimization, probably is not a good investment of your funds or your efforts, your marketing budget, because no one probably is going to search best financial planner in whatever, Wisconsin, or best insurance professional in Torrance, California. They're just not going to do it. But guess what's going to happen? You're going to be introduced to someone, or networking, or LinkedIn, or someone's going to get referred to you. And maybe before they come meet with you, maybe your phone consultation is next week, they're going to Google you. What do they see when they Google your name, your personal name, and your agency, your company name? That's what we want to talk about, because that builds that brand. How to be perceived as the go-to expert in your niche, how to create a mini audio seminar series. We'll touch on that because people don't have time to spend 2 hours getting pitched on, financial services and retirement planning. They want something quick that they can access quickly. And how to draw your prospects through the buyer's journey. There are going to be 3 to 5 to 10 really key pieces of learning content that you need to teach your prospects to draw them through to you to make an appointment with you. And then from there to, keep the appointment. And then from there, so that's called the buyer's journey. So I wanted to give you a little bit of background on myself and kind of what led me into this industry, because I think that so many times it's not like, yesterday I was selling, vacuum cleaners and now I thought I'd give this a shot. Well, I've been in this industry a long time. And one of the things that I remember thinking, well, what got me interested in financial services, focus on that and real estate and all that? Well, I was about 12 years old and my parents lost their house to foreclosure. And I can still remember standing in the front yard in the summer, looking at this foreclosure sign and getting explained that, we're going to go leave and we lost the house and we got to go live in my grandparents' house and in her basement. And I literally slept in the workbench, the workshop and right next to the lathe. And so it was tough, and your sense of security gets rattled. Right. And so I think that those years of looking back on that, this is really just recently that this really hit me, that I look back at that sense of insecurity, financial insecurity of my family that I was participating in, my parents and sister, and we kind of were unstable at that point. And so I want to keep my clients, and I applaud you guys as financial professionals of helping people make wise decisions. So financial matters are so important. And there's so many things that can make your finances topple, and one thing almost topples the next, and the dominoes keep coming. So, fast forward a few years, and I got out of college, and I started my job, and all of a sudden now I find myself in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy attorney's office, going, I'm overwhelmed. I'm in debt. I'm $35,000 in credit card debt, and I literally, this is back in the day when they used these things that are clipboards, but they'll clip in a paper. These days would be a tablet, but I was filling out the forms and I just stopped. I could not finish it. I thought, well, I'll go 13 rather than 7, but I couldn't finish it. And I got up and I purposed in my mind, and I purposed in my heart that I would get out of debt. And so I started down the path of learning and applying principles, and I did. So I spent about 11 or 12 years in the mortgage industry. This was back in 99 to 2010 range. And those were the highs. I worked for JP Morgan Chase, and I found this unique niche working with financial professionals, providing home equity lines of credit, a HELOC, for their clients. And I started developing this network, and it was so easy, and it was wonderful for them because it would preserve AUM. Right. I literally remember one time an advisor with Ameriprise called me up and said, hey, I need my client to get $190,000 line of credit or more because they want to pull $190,000 out of their portfolio to buy an RV. And so the benefit was, tax deductibility and all of that. So I spent many years working with financial professionals. I set records with Chase. I was the #1 producer 2 years in a row. I did $42 million in production and won trips and awards. I had the corner office and overlooking, the downtown Denver. It was just spectacular. And then guess what happened? Wow, 2007 hit, the credit crisis, and things just collapsed. And I had to rebuild my entire life. I went back and got my MBA. I started my marketing agency, and it was a tough, it was a tough time. So I've got a wife and 4 kids. I've got to provide for them, right? So I really, really wanted to be able to provide for them. And here's what I did. I created this whole marketing, and I did it wrong. I was trying to do all things to all people. But then I discovered a mastermind group of people, of consultants like myself, focusing on authority positioning. And as soon as I saw that, the light bulb went off, and I was hooked because I saw all these shiny objects out there. Try this and do this and Facebook Live and buy leads and email blast and social media. And it was just a mess. And what I discovered worked was being seen as an expert. And here's what happened. I took this little course on how to get a book published on Kindle and Amazon, and I actually did it. It was blood, sweat, and tears. I got a book published, and I remember handing it out to a group of advisors that I was working with at the Small Business Development Center. And it was like, they were just like raving. That's amazing. And the next week, one of them called me up and said, hey, come teach a class here at my university on business social media. I did that, and I won a $9,000 contract. And I was like, okay, that never would have happened if I said a tweet or a social media post. And so what I did was I converted my entire focus of marketing, and I just cleared the decks, stopped doing anything and everything. And I started doing one thing. authority marketing. And so that's what I want you to realize is we're positioning our brands, our personal brands, as an expert in authority. And yeah, I wrote a book and that's way down the road. So we're not even talking about that today at all whatsoever. We're not going to write books, but we're talking about positioning you as an authority. So a couple questions for you, three to be exact. Do you look for high value clients? Hopefully you're not looking for, $20,000 term life policies. Hopefully you're looking for high value clients. And once in a blue moon, someone goes, oh, we've got all the business we can handle. No, I don't need more clients. Well, you probably wouldn't be on this presentation if that were the case. But do you look for high value clients? Second, do you agree with the research that people trust verified experts? If I was not positioned well, if I didn't have books and award-winning podcast and Forbes contributor and a federal trademark on authority positioning portfolio, maybe you would go, this guy, I don't know. So research has proven that when someone sees an authority and an expert, trust is increased, credibility is increased. And here's a big one. If I could show you a way to be seen as a celebrity financial services expert in your area, and if this could be done for you and integrate directly into the Reminder Media Magazine program you already use to amplify the results, would that be interesting? Yes, of course it would, I'm sure. Because here's what you need to remember. Whenever and wherever your prospects find you, they find your competition. The trick is getting them to choose you. How do you stand out? No, it's not your 20 years of experience. No, it's not that you're fiduciary, because your competitors have the same things. They've got the similar letters after their name. They say the same things, similar things. You've got to stand out in a different way. Now, I've got a gift for you. And so if you just hang till the end of this presentation, this is not a 90-minute pitch. This is just a teaching presentation. I will show you a really neat done for you package like I did for Luke and see what you think of that. But here's the gift. At the end, I'll show you how you can get a copy of my book, Authority Selling, and a copy of my book, Authoritize Your Agency, a blueprint for financial professionals to be the trusted advisor. I'll send it to you immediately, the electronic version. So stay tuned to when we finish up there. So I've got a question here. How committed are you? You ever heard that statement, are you interested or committed? Because if you're interested, it's like, oh yeah, that's cool. And it just never gets done. But if you're committed to growing your agency, increasing clients, making things easier to get new clients and referrals, that's what I want you to realize is you must be committed, because one of my little taglines I use is building your authority is your number one priority. It really is. And it doesn't take much time. It just takes being consistent. So here's a quick little video. This is about 50 seconds long. Let me know in the chat if there's if the sound is not coming through, but I clicked the button where the sound will be come through good.
And so when we look at this idea of authority marketing for me more than anything else is being willing to put on the hat and embrace a mindset of mission-driven thought leadership. In other words, positioning yourself as not only a media personality, a speaker, somebody who's getting a lot of different opportunities for awards, somebody who is regularly authoring books, etc. What happens there is a hack in the minds of your audience. If I'm looking at 5 different financial advisors and I'm Googling those financial advisors, as I want to do, to figure out, okay, are these options for real? Which one should I focus in on? 4 of the 5 have a basic website in place where they lead with their corporate brand. There are stock photos of smiling retired couples and couples with young children, and kind of mail it in kind of copy. And then I've got one financial advisor that I look at that when I open up his page is on the main stage, and I've got a TEDx logo behind her, or I've got a Wharton Business School logo behind her. I can see she's been on CNBC. I can see she's written a book on the topic. The 4 financial advisors, I'm going to shop them on price. The 5th one, I'm just feeling lucky if I even am able to get in the room with her for a meeting, because of the authority that she's projected in my mind over time.
So powerful points there. And that's what we're talking about. That's Rusty Shelton. He's a speaker in the industry. I've got a second gift for you. And the gift is not anything tangible, but you're going to really appreciate it, because I'm doing a whole reversal. Typically, these webinars are a big, long pitch and it's leading up to something. And I'm going to reverse the tables here. And I'm going to tell you right now exactly what my package I did for Luke was, and tell you the highlights of it so that you can be in your own mind going, okay, I've not heard this exactly like this before. So I'm going to pay a little bit of attention as he continues to talk through. And then I'm going to teach you the methodology with some research behind why this is so important. So here is the package. I call it Mass Authority because you need massive authority, and MASS stands for many audio seminar series. Well, like I said, up in the upper left, people don't want to spend 90 minutes to listen to a big long webinar. Now, yes, it does still work, but you can find that there's a lot of people that don't have the time for that. So if you can break down your message into 20-minute podcast interviews, and each interview is on a specific topic that they would go, oh, that's a really good point. Now you can use that audio seminar series, 3 to 5 of these audio seminars that now come to them from an authority positioning standpoint, because it's you being interviewed on an award-winning podcast, Influential Entrepreneurs. And now your prospects, your centers of influence, your clients see you featured on podcast, ABC, NBC, Fox News affiliates. And so the package I'll just tell you about a little bit later is 3 interviews, 3 press releases, and coaching to show you how to grow your agency using that. So that is my gift to you, because I want you to realize, okay, that's pretty cool. I don't need to go out and, do 20 cold calls a day or 20 more cold calls a day. Hopefully nobody cold calls, but this is laying a foundation for your authority. So don't worry if you don't feel confident doing a podcast interview, because sometimes people say to me, oh, I don't know what to say. And I say, here's what I tell my kids when they go for job interviews. My 4 kids are age 18 to 24. And as a side note, this summer, in the last 60 days, I had my son graduate high school, my daughter graduate college, and my other daughter get married. So we've had quite the summer, but I tell them, just be yourself, just be you. So in a podcast interview, it's just you talking about you. And I have a genius talent, truly, for drawing out expertise out of you and guiding a conversation to make you look like that rock star. So I also give you a little interview prep kit called Tips on Being Interviewed as an Expert. So that's cool. And then some of the things that are in the package are an implementation guide and all kinds of things that you will be handed to you on a silver platter so that you can be featured and seen as a celebrity expert. So how would it make you feel if your prospects, clients, and friends and family saw something like this? Your name and your headshot on this. What do you think their response would be? Oh, as featured on ABC, NBC, Fox, and Spotify. Joe Rogan's on Spotify, or this big artist is on Spotify, and Pandora and iTunes. Well, this is a luxury graphic that I make for the clients that come through this program, so that you then are be able to use this. And this is what's called third-party social proof. The power of this is you can use this on your website as an email signature, on your social media, and this will lay that foundation of people seeing you as an expert. That's just one little piece of this. And here's an example of one of my clients I worked with. He sent me this screenshot, put it up on his Facebook, and take a look down where the arrows are. 171 reactions and 76 comments when he put this up on, there's his interview that I did with him and the as featured on. That's what you want. Now, he probably posts other things like, hey, here's how IRAs work, or hey, and I don't know the engagement there, but you will make an impression when you use this kind of positioning. It's really, really huge. So when you are working with a client, think about this. To maximize their returns, do you ignore the underlying fees and maybe taxes that they might face? In other words, think about the bucket of water analogy with holes in it. You pour more water in, but more water goes out. So you got to pour more water in, but wouldn't it be smarter to plug up the holes? Well, if the holes represent fees and taxes, you can't plug them up all the way, but you can reduce them. You can mitigate them as much as possible. So in this analogy, it would not be wise to put more marketing and more awareness out there if you don't have the foundation of trust and credibility and authority, because then people are just going to ignore it. So an authority positioning portfolio changes the landscape of marketing. It's not just another marketing tactic. In fact, I'm not saying stop doing the following and start doing this. I'm saying when you have an authority positioning portfolio, it's a standalone product that makes your agency, your personal brand, stand out and get new clients. And the byproduct is it also makes all your other marketing that you're doing work that much better. Think about it. If someone sees this ad and it's like, oh yeah, email me at whatever at AOL.com, and here's my website and it looks like a Craigslist website, I don't know. They're probably not going to respond well. But if they see that you're featured on and interviewed on and you're offering a free download of, now maybe they're like, okay, that's pretty legit. So that is what we're talking about here, is using this tool to stand out from the competition. I mentioned research and methodology, so I want to mention this case study because this is really interesting. You can Google this. I'm just going to give you a little thumbnail sketch of what this is, but just Google Stanley Milgram, Yale University. You can read more details. It's in like a psychology, study. But Stanley Milgram was a psychologist at Yale, and he did a study on the obedience to authority. And basically, this was someone bringing in volunteers, and they had, kind of like the actor person sitting in a room strapped to a machine, and then person with a white lab coat and a clipboard. And they would say, okay, we've got a series of questions. You're going to ask them, push the button, and they're going to answer it. And if the green light goes on, they got it right. If the red light goes on, you have to push this button, and it zaps them, a bolt of electricity. And what would happen then is, obviously you get a couple answers right, and then it was like wrong, and they push a button, and then we get worse and worse and worse. And the person over there is, screaming out in pain. And when the person would say, hey, I can't do this anymore, I'm not going to push that button, the person running the experiment would say, please continue. And they would keep going. And then the experiment requires that you continue, and they would keep going. Well, guess what? They expected that 3%, a little bit under 4%, would continue to the end. But in this first set of experiments, 65% administered the final 450 volt shock. Now, no one got shocked, but they thought they were shocking people, but they took it to the end because a person in authority was saying, we must continue. We have to keep going. That's a huge aspect of authority positioning, when you're positioned as an authority. So what they said was the marketplace will blindly believe the words of an expert, and your ideal clients narrow their choices to those who are on top. They don't have time to search for the top 10. They are going to narrow the choice to the top. Okay. So here's a question for you. Here's kind of a shocker. I saw this in my Facebook feed. 7 steps to scale your business to 7 figures. Would you trust this guy? I know I wouldn't click on the ad. Now, I don't know who it is. There's no name. I didn't include that in the screenshot. And if you know him, tell him I'm sorry, but I use this as an example of bad advertising, because this is not the persona. This is not the positioning to make me trust that you know how to scale my business to 7 figures. So imagine if this same title was there, 7 steps to scale your business to 7 figures, and the person was standing there in a sport coat, and they were holding up their Amazon best-selling book, and they were mentioning award-winning podcast that they were interviewed on, and they were mentioned in the media, and maybe they wrote some articles in Forbes or Entrepreneur. And maybe you're like, oh yeah, I'm not going to call that person because they're, got a bunch of zeros after their fee, so move on. But what if that person in the video, let's say, was saying, and surprisingly enough, my packages are extremely affordable and provide dramatic results. Now, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about taking your brand from looking like this to looking spectacular. That's what authority positioning does. One more little quick piece of research is this is a Canadian philosopher named Marshall McLuhan. He wrote a book called The Medium is the Message. And he said, the way we send and receive information is more important than the information itself. So where your content is seen gives as much value as the actual content. So think about that for a second. If you had a 3-page PDF on how to maximize your retirement, minimize taxes, and make sure you transfer your wealth and create a living legacy for your family, and you put that in a 3-page PDF and send it to prospects and clients, they'd probably read it, maybe, possibly, but they know it's a PDF. If you put it up on your website, they know that you could just post that, and it's simple. Put it on Facebook. But if that same content was in a podcast interview, you were featured in the media about this report or this new news piece, now people sit up and take notice. Now it's like that screenshot that I showed you from Barry, where dozens and dozens of people are like, oh my word, good job. Hey, keep up the good work. And here's the thing that I want you to think about. I bet you right now you could go to your Facebook feed or your email and find somebody marketing to financial professionals about, hey, you need to shoot videos and you need to do Facebook Lives and YouTube Lives. Maybe that's not your cup of tea. But even if that was, people do know that you are promoting you. And so when you are able to be interviewed on a podcast, you're the subject matter expert. You're the one being asked the questions, and that changes the perception of people's mind 1,000%. So think about this. Do you know what your client's buyer's journey is? What did they need to understand about you and wealth accumulation and decumulation that made them go, ooh, I need to get back in touch with that person? What are those steps? That's the buyer's journey. What's your current process for drawing and inviting a prospect to become a paying client? What's the average commission on a new client? So think about this in your mind. Now, the lifetime value is like, how long do they stay? How long, residual and all of that. But think about even on the front end, maybe not an AUM, but maybe you did an annuity or a life insurance, an average, not a mega package, but just an average plan. What's your commission on that? Just think of that, about that number in your mind. And then think about this. What's the average time a Facebook ad campaign or a Google ad campaign or a whatever campaign lasts? When you buy ad, hey, if you're interested in retirement, click here to learn more. That campaign lasts as long as you pay the money, which sometimes is short because you're like, I'm not getting the results I want. But authority marketing is permanent. I call them authority marketing assets, because when you are featured on and interviewed on, and when you have these things out there and Google is indexing them, you do it once or twice or three times, and it's long term. And you're using these assets to grow your agency yourself. And so this is I'm going to give you like a thumbnail sketch of a couple of my Forbes articles. You can, this is the screenshot. You could Google optimize the buyer's journey using strategic authority positioning and read the full article in Forbes. But this talks about the buyer's journey and how a unique event called ZMOT will attract clients to you. ZMOT stands for zero moment of truth. It used to be the moment of truth was I bought this thing and did it work? Do I like it? That's the moment of truth. The zero moment of truth is before they make the transaction, before they buy, what they know about you. They research things online. They Google you. They Google your company. What do they find before the moment of truth? That's the zero moment of truth. And when you use an authority positioning portfolio, you now are laying the breadcrumb trail to draw people to you so that the trust is built. And here's an example. This is actually a screenshot of my latest tear out card for my magazine that I sent in. So in the next upcoming one here that goes live in the next few weeks, this is going to be in mine. So it's like, hey, I was interviewed on, scan this QR code to listen to. This is me being interviewed on an industry podcast. And so this is me saying, you ought to listen to this. Right. So if this was you, this would be you being interviewed on my podcast with a QR code going, hey, I was just interviewed about legacy planning or exit planning. Listen to this interview. Right. So this is how you use authority positioning to draw people to you. Here's another article, how financial professionals can amplify their new client follow-up efforts with authority positioning. So again, this is an article I wrote on Forbes. You can Google it later, but the gist of it is how to enhance lead follow-up. So let's say that you were referred someone or someone saw some of these things out there on social media. They reached out and connected with you and set an appointment for next week for Starbucks or Zoom, whatever the case is. You're going to probably send an email going, hey, I'm looking forward to connecting with you. The time to verify the time and the date. Okay, good. Hey, between now and then, I'd love for you to listen to this podcast interview where I was interviewed about my approach to financial planning and how I help my clients, retire wealthy or whatever the case is. Click here to listen. Talk to you later. Okay, so here's how that could look. Hey, John, we look forward to our upcoming meeting. Before we're meeting, feel free to listen to. Now, if you notice, this is the as featured on that I did for Luke. So if this was your name and your headshot and as featured on, and if you notice the hot links, this is, like how in Outlook, just a little ninja tip here, you could have a little email like this that you copy all of this and go insert into quick parts. And if you use Outlook, you can save this exact email that you would send to every pre-meeting. And the next time you want to send it, you just go click, paste, and it goes right in. But you just create it once and then it's already there for you. But the beauty of being able to do that, Spotify, iTunes, Audible, and Pandora, those are hot links right to your interview on my podcast. Well, why would you have this long? Because it's ugly. And you want people to see, oh, Spotify, oh, iTunes, oh, Pandora. Yeah, Audible, huh? Well, this is how you use authority positioning assets for lead follow-up. So maybe you have the meeting scheduled for next week, and this is going to solidify to make sure they show up to the meeting. Okay. How about next? This is the buyer's journey. I'm explaining to you and teaching you how the buyer's journey works. You get their attention. Now you have the meeting. Now you're solidifying the meeting. And then how about using authority positioning portfolio to close more deals? This is another one of my articles to increase lead closing rates. So maybe it's the same meeting that you had with someone and now they actually showed up, or maybe you started buying leads. Anyone buying leads? I'm sure that there's some heads nodding. Yeah, because you want to get in front of people. Well, here's a little dirty secret. You're not the only advisor contacting them. How are you going to stand out? Well, maybe it's like this. Maybe you're able to send out after the meeting that you have with someone, or in you purchased a lead. Hey, I was just recently interviewed on a podcast where I teach, how to do give it a listen and look forward to connecting with you soon. So in the scenario that we just talked about where you had the meeting and they showed up, maybe in between that meeting and the delivery meeting, like, you're going to do some research and then show them your recommendations. Maybe in between those two meetings, this email goes out. Hey, it was great to meet with you yesterday. I'm working on putting together some of those scenarios. And when we meet next week, I'll show them to you. But in the meantime, just thought you'd like to listen to this new interview that I did where I talk about, asset reallocation or whatever the case is. And so these are things. And again, this one here is, one of the tarot cards for my magazine because I was interviewed on with Brett Swinehart. So being able to use your authority positioning assets, to draw people to you, to solidify appointments, to solidify closing rates, spectacular. And now when we are thinking about the authority positioning mindset, we have to empathize, teach, be an educator and advocate. We have to solve problems. People like to buy, but they don't like to be sold. So teach them, educate them, let them realize that you know what you're talking about, right? You have to step into your authority. Now, this is something really interesting. Here's a book recommendation. If you've not read Shift by Jeremiah Desmarais, read it. It's a spectacular book. He's with Advisorist, but on his website down there's the URL where I found this. It was really neat. He did this really kind of like a case study where he has this picture of this guy named Terry, and he's an agent in California. He saved a small town $26,000 in benefit costs. Cool. Is Terry worth $500 an hour? 90% of people will say no just based on his picture. But the same Terry who saved a small town $26,000, and he's been mentioned in the media as seen on ABC, Fox, NBC. Whenever he poses the question to a room full of people, 80% change their mind. And all they did was make a small change to the photo. Here's another one. Tracy Booker, 31-year-old financial planner, does this fee-based financial planning. Does she deserve, or would you pay $2,500? Maybe, maybe not. But again, the small shift as featured on, now 80% of the room changes their mind. It's that social proof, is that third party social proof. That's what we're talking about. So how can you get the same results? You can get all this stuff done. You can do it yourself. You can start researching reporters in your area, your geographic area. You can build a contact list to start reaching out to them. And here's a little note. Don't blast them with articles and tips. They don't want that. What you need to do is research them and follow them on social media and like their stories and make comments and be visible, and then begin interacting, and then learn how to write a good pitch and follow up. And maybe they pick you up and make a little mention in one of their articles. That's a lot of work, but you can do it yourself. That's how it can be done. You can take the traditional route and hire a consulting firm, $5,000 or $10,000 a month. That's how much they cost, really, or more. And even then, it's not guaranteed. I mean, they just do all the work for you, but I can't make a reporter pick up. I mean, they won't guarantee that, but it's super expensive. And then here's one I found on the internet. Online PR package, $11,000, $7,000, $6,000. So they're out there, and they'll get some that's guaranteed and some that is just, branding out there. And then there's one here I found. You can get one interview and one press release done for $1,000. So there's some ways out there, from traditional to paid. What we want to talk about is how to fast track your authority. So I want you to think about something. And I always use this. I really feel that it really gets down into the mindset of your prospect, your target audience. And I know I've touched on this before, but I want you to really realize the true power of you pushing you is push marketing. What we're talking about here is pull marketing. We're drawing people to you from being seen as an expert, and nothing wrong with doing a video. I'm doing one right now, but when you are interviewed as that subject matter expert, the tables are turned in the mind of your prospect. You're not pitching, you're not selling, you're answering questions. And I'm asking really educated questions to draw out, well, tell me how that, isn't that permanent life insurance policy you just mentioned that's got some death benefits, but sounds to me like there's a lot of benefits while you're still alive. Go a little bit deeper on that. So I'm able to draw out some great questions for you to answer, kind of lobbing a softball, and you can knock it out of the park. And so here's where we're going to kind of talk a little bit about what we did for Luke and how we can integrate that in with the magazine. So Luke, if you want to come back on, this is the two slides here that we can just kind of show as in addition to what I was showing here, but kind of give your insight there on these two slides.
Yep. So love everything you're saying so far. It's super interesting. Like it plays in where I see this being really powerful for your magazine is especially when you're meeting new people for the first time, right? You're sending the magazine to a prospect to make the first impression. You're at your seminar and you're handing the magazine out, because it just builds that credibility with someone who's meeting you for the first time. You see on my magazine, I obviously am using the NBC, the Fox, the CBS to just build my credibility. But what's really neat here is that I'm linking them with a QR code to my podcast interview. So you can put in your magazine QR codes. You can actually put a QR code on the front cover if you even want it to. So you can link to your podcast interview that you're going to end up doing with Mike if you do this type of package. And what's great about that is you can design up your back cover to link to the press release so people can read the press release. And remember, this type of content is educational content that's showing you as the subject matter expert. So when Mike interviewed me on the podcast, what I loved about it was he was able to bring out of me kind of my value proposition in a non-salesy way, if that makes sense. It wasn't like I went on your podcast, Mike, and I basically gave the pitch of Reminder Media. You pulled out an interview style, the pitch of Reminder Media, which levels up my credibility in the mind of the audience. And the main reason that I chose to do this, when Mike contacted me and started explaining what he does for advisors, and I got to know him a little bit, is I and my partner, Steve, here at Reminder Media, we're going through the process of succession planning and trying to figure out, okay, who do we use to go through succession planning? And we ended up talking to a firm named Copper Beach, and they had a podcast about basically being a CFO for families, right? And being someone that helps with succession planning. In the podcast, I didn't even listen to very many of their episodes, but the fact that they had educational content from a podcast perspective, it influenced us to go and talk and work with Copper Beach. We worked with them. And so I was like, man, when Mike came to me, it had the podcast effect and also the logo. I call it the logo effect or the PR effect, where I can use the logos of NBC, Fox, all these things to elevate that credibility right away. Super powerful to use on your magazine and to use it in a way that just gives educational value, but also levels you up credibility wise.
Yeah. And, the other thing, in marketing, we see a huge trend in the last couple of years is how to tell your story. Right? Story selling. Well, it's not once upon a time, but it's this whole progression, and it's not pitching, and an interview draws it out of you so well. Here's something else to think about, and I'll show you the graphic again, the as featured on. We don't just willy-nilly put ABC, NBC, Fox News. Guess what happens? As one of the deliverables is like a 10-page PDF report that shows the press release that you approved and your compliance department approved. So just as a little put a pin in this, if you need to have your compliance department approve the press release before it goes out, cool. I send it to you. You send it up. If they make changes, you send me the approved version. I've never had a press release denied ever. One time they said, oh, change this one word. A couple times it's like, oh, you might want to just put this disclaimer. Cool. So it's all compliance approved stuff. But the really neat thing is I send you this distribution report that goes, hey, that press release that we got approved, here's the syndication. You can click on that logo, and here it takes you to where your press release is now out there on that ABC affiliate news site online. And so now we can legitimately say as featured on, as seen on. So that's not just some marketing thing that you're like, oof. And one of the little tips I teach you in the implementation guide is, for each one of the three interviews and press releases, click on a few of those and pull up the date and all of that and take a big screenshot of that. Because you never know when some news release is going to change the link structure or their site's down. So you never want to link directly to it. Now, the Authority Presswire one, that's our base, our hub. But some of these other ones, just take a screenshot and save it on your computer, because then that's what you promote on your website. So I just thought that would be a really neat thing just to show you how we're doing there with Luke. And
there's
here comes
a question, Mike, just so you know.
Sure.
Dan is asking, sure, it's been asked, but what's the cost of this package? Are there any discounts as a Reminder Media user? So I don't want to spoil your thing. I know you're going to get to that, but there are. So yes.
There are. And we're landing the plane. This is me now just going, if you like this, here's the deal, and here's the cost, and here's the discount. And yes, you're exactly right. This is a special deal for Reminder Media. So the gift that I mentioned with my books, if you guys just write this down, you can do this later, but just go to MikeSaunders360.com and click on the contact and send me a text or an email, whichever one you prefer, and just go tell me your name and your email address. Of course, if you email me, I'll have your email address, but then just request the books. and I will send them right to you. You'll have them immediately, the full digital version of those 2 books, and you'll really learn a lot from that. They're really helpful. So just do that when you get a second. So again, this is the package. If you want to be seen as that authority, if you want to have all that trust and credibility built up, if you want to have the ability to have people being drawn through the buyer's journey and solidify appointments and get referrals, because let me tell you this, remember that old 80s song, Luke, Bonnie Raitt, let's give them something to talk about. I would have that queued up to play, but it's kind of like, hey, I get all my business by referral. Well, do you? And do they send you enough? Well, why don't you give them something to talk about? Why don't you send them, hey, I was just interviewed on, take a listen. Let me know what you think. Oh, and feel free to forward it over to 1 or 2 people you think might benefit from this. Not send it to your whole database and post it on no, just, hey, can you think of 1 or 2 people? Now that person's like, oh yeah, hey, Betty, we were just talking the other day about our, retirement. Hey, my advisor, my guy, Luke, just was interviewed. Check this out. He's really great. So if you want all of that, this is the package, mass authority, where you will be seen as that expert and that authority. And here is the package: 3 interviews on my podcast, 3 multimedia press releases. And when I say multimedia, here's what I mean by that. This is really important. A lot of services will charge you $200 to write a press release, $200 to syndicate it, and another $200 to embed a YouTube video if you have a YouTube video. $600 for one. And so what I'm able to do is embed a YouTube video in each one of these. And if you have a YouTube video, wonderful. If you don't, I take the YouTube embed from this interview that we do in our podcast. Now, just as a note, I do these as audio only. This is phone. You don't get it on a camera, because I feel like if you've got to comb your hair and get your lighting right and get your video, it's just too much. But I say, I did an interview today. The lady was on a cell phone. Okay, cool. Just make sure it's a clear connection and you're in a quiet spot. But we do an audio interview. It's 20 minutes long, but we convert that into MP4 video and we put your headshot in there. So now it syndicates out to YouTube and Google indexes that. So I would take that embed and put it in the press release. So now that press release links to your podcast interview. The embedded YouTube, which is your podcast interview, links over to YouTube, which links to the podcast. And so now you've got all this interlinking happening. And of course, each and every one of those things links to your website. And your name and agency name is in the title. So it's really, really powerful that way. Now, this is, I'll show you the basic and the premium package. The premium gives you a full-on vibrant marketing package for each and every one of the episodes. So we do QR codes, we do social media shout outs, we do audiograms for each of the 3 interviews. And what's a social media shout out? Well, hey, Luke, here's the link to your podcast interview. You did a great job. Promote it. And you're like, well, how about if I said, oh, and here's 3 social media shout outs that you can just go copy paste. Hey, have you ever worried about transferring your wealth tax-free to your family? Find out how to do this on the podcast interview that I was interviewed on. Here's the link. So we make things like that are relevant to your interview. So all you have to do is go copy paste. Or if you have an assistant, they can just go, oh, let me upload the graphic that we had made. I was just interviewed on or as featured on. So this is the display of the promotion package. And I want to just play this. This is about 30 seconds, but listen to this. This is so amazing.
Hi, this is Kevin Coffey. I wanted to reach out and let people know about Mike Saunders' Authority Marketing Packages. I've been a client of Mike for many years and recently went through his podcast interviews and media release. And the feedback from and the prospecting I've done with these programs, these packages, has been phenomenal. You know, the first thing people will do is when you contact them is they're going to go right to Google and they're going to Google your name. Well, recently, of course, I talked to an organization about doing a presentation at their church. And the first thing they did was Google my name. And the person who's making the decision whether to let me in the church to do presentations emailed me back and said, hey, congratulations on your success. I listened to your podcast online, which, by the way, is on the first page of Google. And after listening to it, we'd like to meet with you to discuss how we can work with your organization. That is what we call the new way of marketing your business today. And it's been very successful for us.
So this is just a little screenshot of I think this is like, you know how I mentioned SEO, people aren't going to Google best financial planner in, they're going to Google your name and your agency. So what happens if they Googled your name and agency and they saw your website and your LinkedIn and Facebook? Well, they expect that. But what happened if they saw, see where those arrows are pointing? Oh, a podcast interview. Oh, mentioned in the media. And then see that thumbnail? That's a thumbnail interview of Kevin here that just did that testimonial. We did that by phone. But here's a YouTube thumbnail for a video because Google owns YouTube. And so they index their videos. And so this becomes page one Google authority positioning because these things are indexed. And that is another breadcrumb trail that's happening when we're doing these. So Google indexing is really huge. The syndication, I mentioned this, but real briefly, it's just your interview. You do it one time, 20-minute phone interview, and it goes out through the top platforms, iTunes and Spotify, and even Amazon, Alexa, and Pandora and Audible. So it's really, really great to be able to use those as credibility builders for you. We touched on the as featured on. This is really huge to be able to go, hey, I was just recently featured on a podcast interview. Check it out. And you could use this in your, email signature, like I showed you with that one example a minute ago. So now remember the question I asked you. Are you interested? Or are you committed? Are you committed to growing your agency? And if I told you that this was a 12-week, workshop and you're going to get all these, you would roll your eyes and go, no. But what if I told you that these 3 interviews will take you 1 hour? 20 minutes for the first one, 20 minutes for the second one, and 20 minutes for the third one. 1 hour, you're in and out and done. Now let's be truthful. Maybe it's going to take you an hour and a half because you're going to need to schedule the 3 and you're going to need to look at the press releases that I sent to you. But on less than 2 hours of your time, done. And me and my team are delivering all of this to you. So you've been working in financial services for years and you need to grow it, but somehow, some way, it just isn't snapping, isn't popping. When people see you as an expert authority, now all of a sudden they're like coming to you. They're asking for your advice. They're not just kind of sitting there with their arms crossed. So here's the premium package. You get 3 interviews on my podcast, Influential Entrepreneurs. It's on the Business Innovators Radio Network. Now, this is not underwater basket weaving in Colorado. This is not, healthy eating and why do you want to be on that? This is Influential Entrepreneurs on the Business Innovators Radio Network. 3 full-length feature interviews, 3 multimedia press releases. We talked about the guaranteed placement at ABC, NBC, Fox News, and then a coaching session to teach you how to use all of this to grow your agency. Now, this is the premium package. So you're spending 3 interviews, 20 minutes each, and you're done. Short of me or of you approving the press release I do, here's what else I do to deliver the premium package. I send you the links to all of the premium channels, the iTunes and the Spotify and the Pandora, so you got them readily at hand. I then create those social media shout outs so you or your admin assistant can go copy, paste, post it up, emails, website, social media. It's all a done for you package. Custom audiograms. Now, I'm not going to show you this, but because for the sake of time, but you've probably seen them. You just never knew what it was called. But we take a random 60-second snippet from your podcast interview and create a 60-second video. And I send it to you for each of the 3 interviews. And it's like, a lot of families, they're talking about how saving money or taxes. And what we do is it's just right in the middle of our conversation. And it's got the branding from the show. It's got those waveforms. And so that's a neat way, you might promote interview number 1 with the graphic I was just interviewed on. You might promote interview 2 with the audiogram. So these are just things that are handed to you and done. QR codes for each and every one. Like we showed you with those magazine inserts, it's great to go, hey, I was just interviewed, scan this or visit. So QR codes are wonderful. Now, remember the question that I asked you a few minutes ago about what is your average commission on a annuity or a life insurance, right? Or even, AUM long-term. Whatever that number was in your mind, might be $4,600 or more. So this whole package is a $4,600 value. The package price is $2,500. And if you notice there in the red, this is a lot of involvement for me. I'm doing these interviews. My team is creating all of this to hand to you. And I'm doing the coaching session. So there's only 10 of these offered on this session here today. So keep that in mind. But the value of $4,600, your investment of $2,500, and then because you're a Reminder Media customer, I take 20% off. So if you go to remindermedia.com/authority, that'll take you right to the order page, and you can put in RM Financial 20 to get 20% off of the premium package, $500 off. So $2,000 for these permanent assets done for you to put you out from a distance from your competition. Spectacular way to have marketing content to use ongoing. This is not like like I said, this is not a Facebook campaign that poof, once it's done in 30 days, it's gone. You got to load it back up. Now I want you to do 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 of these packages down the road. Not really, but I do have several clients that go, hey, this was spectacular. We did those 3 topics. I got another 3 that are killer because I did focus these on, small business owners that I want to do key man insurance kind of stuff on, but I want to do these 3 to get retail customers. Great. We can do 2, I'll give you the same discount, but just start with this one package. You will find that a $2,000 investment is spectacular and the return is quick. Now, let's say that you have a marketing team or an admin assistant and you don't need all of the premium promotion. Here's the basic package. You still get the 3 interviews. You still get the 3 press releases. You still get the coaching session to teach you how to use this in your marketing. And you still get the graphics that say as featured on ABC, NBC. So you get all of those, but you just don't get all the premium links and the social media shout outs and the audiogram and the QR codes. Now, this package is a $3,500 value and your investment is $995. Now, again, if you think about if you got one client, even the $2,000 package, if you got one client, boom, you're making your money back immediately plus some. But then I do give the discount. So RM Financial 10. So Reminder Media. So RM Financial 10, you'll get 10% off. And so you'll get about $100 off of this. So it's like 897 or whatever the number is. So $995 minus 10%, about $895. And that's easy for 3 interviews, 3 press releases. You will absolutely love it. And then I've got an extra value added bonus. If you secure this package today, you'll get a premium pass. I will give you a premium pass to this summit that I did. I interviewed me and 29 other people, top people in the industry. When you see some of these names, you'll recognize them, like Bob Berg that wrote The Go-Giver, Tom Hopkins, the godfather of selling and sales, Anthony Iannarino, David Hall with Influence.co. So a lot of these people I interviewed on a video and they gave massive bonuses. So there's over $450 worth of bonuses. So if you order today, I will give you this as a value added bonus. So Luke, that is the package with the discounts. And I'm happy to open it up for any questions.
Love it. Yeah. Chat in your questions. And Mike, can you go back to the link real quick? So make sure people can see that. And if you can click and take them maybe to that page, because when you go to that page, it's like, I think you got to scroll down to the bottom. As you're doing that, I will tell people, I just for myself, just real quick, actually Googled cost of a press release. And what came up for me, if you scroll down, like, the first thing that comes up is, I think, from Prowly.com. And it says basically a PR Newswire press release for national press release is $805. And you're getting 3 press releases, right? Yeah. So It shows you like, and then, they stay on the low end, $350 to $600. So I just want to point that out of like, PR is an incredible thing to use in business. We've done it with Reminder Media. All my peers and people that I network with that have businesses that run multi-million-dollar businesses, PR is part of their strategy because it adds such good positioning and good credibility to be able to earn the right to share your value prop with that potential prospect. So Mike, like one of the most powerful slides that you showed, I think is the slides of the doors. And they literally, when they go and they search for your expertise, financial planning, mortgage lending, whatever it is, they're going to come across multiple options. And so what gives you the right to be able to give them your presentation? You need every edge possible, just like here at Reminder Media, to earn your business from a marketing standpoint. We need every edge possible, and we need to be able to attract you in. So it's awesome to be able to get our content on these platforms and build that credibility. It's a strategy that every company usually has when they've reached a certain level. I would encourage you just to be able to use those logos and have the interviews for evergreen drips is worth it. I have a question here, and sorry if I pronounced the name wrong. I think it's Burge, but I could be pronouncing that wrong. Would this work good for mortgage lenders? Is the question.
Yeah, I mean, I have clients that are attorneys, that are chiropractors. This works for anything at all. We just happen to be talking about financial professionals today, but mortgage lenders for sure, because are there 3 topics you could talk about? How to get pre-qualified, how to buy a big house, all of the topics regarding mortgage lending. And like I mentioned, I was one, so I know great questions asked. So for sure, 100%.
Love it. Steve Berner is asking, can you present multiple products on the interviews they do with you?
I would say you can present anything you want, but for the sake of clarity, I would probably recommend that you think about, if you're having three, focus the first interview on one specific product so that your prospects hearing that are really dialed into IUL, let's say, and that's all you talk about. The other product might be whatever the case is, right? But you can present anything you want. I would just say, be careful so that you're not talking about all kinds of things on an interview and now they're confused, but for sure.
Great advice. One thing I want to point out also that I see a ton of value in, and one of the reasons why I did it with you, Mike, is because, I speak, right? So yesterday I was in Omaha speaking at a NAFA event, right? Well, I try to also, there's a lot of places that don't know about me that I want to get on as a speaker, right? And I have to submit a pitch deck, basically. I have to say, hey, can I do a seminar for you guys, right? Can I join your conference? Can I be one of the keynote speakers? Well, I need every little edge to try to earn me that right, because everybody else is submitting. This goes on my bio. Now, I've been blessed enough now over the years to be actually featured on these type of things. And so I can use those logos and they help me. If you think about this from the standpoint of seminars, you're trying to earn the right to pitch at maybe the community center, or you're trying to present a seminar at the local library or the elderly community, or you're trying to partner with a, financial planner or an elder care attorney. Like, this is stuff that can help you get into those places to be able to do your seminar.
How about this?
The trust goes up.
You're 100%. I mean, so send them one of the interviews and the as featured on. How about if you, as a financial professional, wanted to partner with maybe a CPA, and maybe the opening, the foot in the door is, hey, a quick LinkedIn message. Hey, I was just interviewed on how I serve my clients. Would love to grab a coffee with you. Check this out. And so now who knows where that conversation could go to build that strategic alliance.
Yep. And then put the podcast interviews on your website too. So I don't know if we mentioned that or not, but make sure, obviously they're going to go out in your press releases, on your drip, but put them on your website. You
said a really big thing, Luke, evergreen. And in the implementation guide, in the coaching session, I teach you all kinds of things like, put how to even embed the podcast interview on your website, not just link and then send them off your website. So that's for sure. How about on your website, when there's a book a call now, maybe right above that, before you're asking for the call, maybe it's like, oh, hey, as featured on, and hey, Luke was just interviewed on, listen to this interview. And maybe that pre-sells them to even book the call. Because I've seen so many websites that are like, we are Legacy Financial Advisors, book a call now. And they're like, I don't even know what your name is. Why am I going to book a call? So having it on your website embedded so they don't leave your website, but right there is huge. I think that's a big piece. This is the page here that the link goes to. This is the flyer we talked about. This video, you can watch it. It's about 16 minutes long, but it's basically saying what we just did here today. Here's some testimonial videos. You saw this one from Kevin, but there's several more in here. And then here is, there's a sneak peek of a little bit more in depth of what you get in the package. And then this is the form down here at the bottom. So if you put in RM Financial 20, so actually you do that on the premium, and there it is. You take $500 off, and then on the basic, it's the RM Financial 10 apply, and then you get the $99.50 off. So that's the point here. Now check this out. You can complete the order and not use PayPal. You don't need to submit a PayPal. You can pay with your credit card, but if you have any issue, you can email me, and I'm happy to help.
Stephanie is asking, how long is this offer good until? I'm the marketing director for our firm and see value in this, but would need to pitch it to the owner.
I will say that I don't, like the reversal thing, and I like the concept of unmarketing. I could say it's only good while we're on no, come on. If you see value in it, let's do it. If it takes you an extra day or two, get it with some of the partners. If you even want to set up a call with me and them, I'll chat with them. Once this, replay comes out, you can show this to them, but I'm not going to put a hard, fast deadline. I will tell you this though. If you find value in this, take action now, other than the example like here, the marketing director that needs to get it past some partners. But if you find some value in this, you're going to get back to your daily life, and you're going to get busy, and you're going to, it's fine. But as fast as doing 3 20-minute interviews and you have all of this stuff to work, it's not an imposition on your schedule. So definitely I will work with you on that and make sure that they have all the questions answered.
I would tell you guys, from my opinion, especially if you've been in the industry, you have clients, you have a successful business, just to get the ability to use the logos is going to be insanely powerful for all your marketing from here on out. Like every piece of marketing that you're doing, to be able to use those logos on it, and then to have it linked to actually good content on a podcast is a no-brainer in my mind. That's why I did it. It makes sense from a marketing perspective. All right, get your last questions in before we wrap up. Stephanie says thank you. So you are welcome, Stephanie. So get your last questions in. We're going to wrap up here, Mike. I super appreciate
You're
you
welcome.
sharing this.
I'll just say one last thing about compliance.
Yep.
Because, back in the day, you used to be able to not send out a thank you note, handwritten thank you note without getting legal involved. Nowadays, compliance has lightened up a lot. And like I said, I have never had a compliance department say no. Maybe they said, well, don't say financial planner, say financial professional, or make sure that you have. So as long as you've got your disclosure disclaimer down at the bottom of these things and you get there, we're not going to have any problem. I never have had a problem with that, but I pause and I wait. Once in a blue moon, someone will go, hey, don't even make that podcast live. I know we just talked in generalities, but they want to hear the audio first. Okay, I'll send you the audio before it goes out live. But most of the time, the podcast goes live and then we send the press release for approval. But the podcast show notes has your disclaimer and no guarantees and whatever that you need to say. So depending on how you're licensed, 6, 7, or life insurance, you might need certain disclaimers. Just get them to me and I'll make sure that they're all in there.
Yeah, love that. Great point. Really appreciate it, Mike. I see a ton of value in this. That's why I wanted to bring it to everyone here. The big takeaway from me to you guys from a marketing perspective and just making you think through is that you need to think about your authority positioning. A good action item for you, even if you don't purchase Mike's program, which I believe everybody should, but even if you don't, go Google your name. Go Google your name with your firm's name in there and what comes up. Because that is your positioning online right now from a Google perspective, right? So your LinkedIn's probably going to show up, but what else comes up? This plays into that. You should be thinking through how you're positioned when you meet a prospect. And if you do this, right, all of you should take advantage of Mike's coaching when it comes to how to do the interview, because I want you to think through my real world example of I chose Copper Beach to help me with some succession planning stuff. And one of the things they did is they met with us, they gave us their presentation. And then John literally sends me one of his podcasts that reinforces what he talked to me about, but it was longer form, right? So that's what you can do in your interview with Mike is he can help pull out, hey, what's the number one thing you're trying to present value-wise to your prospect? What do you want them to know more about? After you do your appointments with them, send that interview as a drip. It's an easy drip that now they can see, wow, you're featured on Fox, you're featured on ABC, NBC, all those things, but they can hear more about what you talked about. And me being in the consumer's shoes in that moment, I wanted to know about succession planning, tax savings, all this stuff. And he sent me an interview way more in detail about all that stuff.
And was that, do you remember, Luke, if that was an audio interview or was it a video?
I listened to the audio, so I don't even know if it was video.
So here's, I know that if you go online, a lot of people will tout, video, and video is great, wonderful. But guess what? I feel like the barrier to entry to get it done. I mean, again, I've got the professional setup and lights and all this. That's great. But most people don't. And your prospects, they don't need to watch your mouth move to hear what you say. So if you send them that podcast interview that's audio, they can listen to it while they're on the treadmill, while they're taking their walk, while they're driving to work. That's way more portable than because some of these browsers these days, you click on a video and when you then go back to your email to listen, it stops. I don't need to watch you to hear your voice. So a podcast is powerful in that respect as well.
Yeah, it's a great point. Burge is asking, so Authoritize basically creates the content based upon what our topic is. So he wants to confirm that you're going to help and do all the content. He just needs to tell you what his topic is and what he's trying to present.
Yep. There's a coaching video that you get right as soon as you sign up. Number one is the intake form, what's your agent's name, but then you get this coaching video of how to choose your 3 topics that will draw the people through the buyer's journey. So let's say that one, you wanted to focus on business owners to talk about key man kind of stuff. The other, you want to talk about pre-retirees, and the other, maybe you do some college planning. So you're going to use permanent life insurance for college planning and lower EFC and all that. Maybe you're going to pick those 3 topics. And then under those 3 topics, you just go, oh, interview 1 is this. Let's hit this question, this question, this question. That's all you need to tell me. And then I just go to town and I just bring it to life. And even if you just said, let's focus on this one topic, I know enough. If you don't want to tell me the questions, we'll get her done. So yeah, it's not a lot of brain damage on your part at all, but I give you some guidance along the way.
Love it. Well, thank you all for joining. You want to tell them the link one more time where they go to, I think it's remindermedia.com/authority. if I'm not
Yep,
mistaken.
it is remindermedia.com/authority, all lowercase, and that'll take you right there. And remember the coupon code of RM Financial 20 or RM Financial 10.
Awesome. Appreciate you
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Always remember the difference between top producers and mediocre producers is top producers take action. That's why I'm wearing this shirt.
Nice.
That's what they do, right? Get it off the pile of good ideas, put into implementation, something you've learned today, get these things going to give you authority, to give you that edge. We're in a market right now that has shifted. And I always say the offensive people are going to survive. The strong are going to survive. The people who don't back down, the people that go full force, right? When everybody's running from the market, that's when you run towards the market. That's when you can capture market share. This is a way to give you an edge in your presentations, to separate you from your competition. As Ed Milet says, it's separation season right now. Let's go separate ourselves from the pack. Make it a big day. Mike, appreciate you guys. And I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks for joining.